I'm Vanessa Franko. Welcome to another edition of PE Live. Today I'm joined by Black Bear from Black Bear and the Cheyenne Autumn Band. But the band's invisible today, but you're here. I'm so glad that you're here. But it's kind of appropriate because the project started as just you. So can you talk a little bit about how this all came to be?
Well, I've been writing and performing, recording music for years. But this little project started my last semester at college. So I was kind of writing songs as the semester went by to get me through school, to kind of cope with all of the assignments and the stress of being in school and not really wanting to be there. But I ended up taking a Pro Tools recording class in school, and toward the end of the school year, I actually bought the Pro Tools software so I could practice, and because we had to pass this exam and get certified and all this stuff. So I started recording my songs just sort of like as a project, not really seriously thinking about where it would go. Then the next semester begins to start. That would be the spring semester of 2012, last year. When that semester began, I only had one class left to take, and I wanted to move on to, I don't know, like a Cal State or something higher than Riverside Community College. I signed up for 12 units, and my wife and I were newlyweds, and she decided to sign up and take classes with me as well. So we're going to school together. It's February. It's the first day of class, and we had just finished. I had just finished recording a full album that I had no plans or no. Of course I had aspirations of performing it live and stuff, but it was really kind of like I gotta get these ideas out of my head and get it going and get it out there. Otherwise it's just like stuck in here and driving me insane. So I recorded the album and started kind of posting up the songs on Facebook, but not really performing or anything like that. So we go to school the first day, we live in Corona, so we drive all the way out to Riverside. We get to our class about an hour early, but as soon as we get to the campus, there's nowhere to park, which is kind of always like a curse for any Riverside Community College campus, especially on the first day. But I thought, oh man, we're here an hour and a half early, we're gonna have no problem. But we end up driving around the campus, circling around for 2.5 hours. There's not a single parking space on the entire campus. I'm like about to like rip my hair out. I'm just like so frustrated with everything. And I finally get to my first class, which was going to be the class I was going to take so I could go on to like a Cal State or something like that, and that was geology. And I walk into the classroom, which I had a lot of trouble finding because they built a whole new building and I didn't even know about. And I get to the class, and there isn't even a seat in the class. People are lining the walls, and I have to sit on the floor. And I'm actually in this class, like I'm not trying to get added or whatever. I'm actually on the roster, and I only make it to the last 10 minutes of class. And then I go to my next class, and the next class is actually with my wife. It's a film class. And I guess she had a terrible time at her first class too. She was super late, nowhere to sit, same problem. And we're like, well, hey, the next class is film. We love film. We watch tons of movies and stuff. Like, this is gonna be great. Like, let's have some hopes here, and maybe it's not gonna be all bad. Maybe these two classes aren't gonna be so great, but film. We love film. And we walk into the class, and the teacher lays out the syllabus for the whole semester. And I'm looking at it, and I have every single film on the syllabus. I've seen every film, and I own every film on the syllabus. And I'm like, why am I here? Why am I taking these classes? Like, I don't even know if I want to be in school. So I had this like revelation that evening as to maybe this isn't for me kind of thing. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, forget this. I'm going to start a band.
And your wife is in the band.
My wife is in the band too.
And your sister
yes.
is in the band.
My sister.
And the band, like, how you found the other members is really interesting too, because you and your sister always like listened to music, got into music together.
Yeah.
Growing up, right? Like you guys were
yeah.
always really into it, and your wife obviously very musical as well. So how did the rest of the band come together?
That's a good question. Well, our drummer, Mikey White Owl Wilson, he is the manager at Salvation Army in Corona. And so one of our other favorite activities is thrift store shopping because we're poor and we can't afford to buy new clothes. So thrift store shopping becomes like a weekly event. And so I would go in there all the time, and he's just the nicest guy. So friendly, so sweet and kind to everyone in there. And so like we really, like our friendship sort of hit it off like right off the bat. And I could tell that he was musically inclined person just by, you could just perceive these things, his style and stuff. So we started talking music. Turns out he's a drummer, and he loves the same kind of stuff I do, 60s stuff, folk stuff, indie rock, that kind of stuff. So we started talking about all this stuff, and we jammed together several times, but as I was going to school, it just wasn't a possibility to start a band. Like school was my focus. So as soon as I'm like, forget school, let's start a band, I called him up that night and he was like, let's do it. Like he was totally stoked and totally down for it. And then we played for almost a year with that lineup. It was him on drums and me on guitar and singing and harmonica. My sister and my wife, however, have really busy work schedules. So they would maybe do 1 or 2 shows a month with us, but we would play once or twice a week. And so most of the time, it was just Mike on drums and I. And so we had this weird, it was like an acoustic White Stripes thing or something going on. It sounded cool and people dug it, and like the bar scene and stuff. But like we really needed a bass player to fill out the lineup, so that even if for some reason the girls couldn't perform, or they had a busy work schedule or something like that, we'd always have like a full sound kind of thing, something to offer everyone that was rocking and energetic and stuff. So I would say, I came up with this little analogy that our music without a bass player was like a bearded man in winter, and he's wearing a woolen cap and thick flannel and boots, but no pants.
You need pants in winter. Like
you might need those pants.
And finally, you found pants.
We found pants, and in the strangest of all places, we searched on Craigslist because I was just desperate. Honestly, like no one was coming forward to play bass, and in Corona, we got a few really great bass players, but they're already in 3 or 4 bands. So like, there's no way they could commit to our show schedule. So I'm going on Craigslist and I'm posting a posting saying we need a bass player, and then I'm like, well, I might as well browse the postings and see if there are any bass players looking for bands. And sure enough, I find Derek, who we call Black Bison, and he says he's into metal and funk, and I'm like, well, that's not really our genre, but I had a feeling like someone with those like metal roots I would get along with well, because I used to play a lot of metal. And then I thought about the funk, and I was like, well, we need that soul to our music. Like I actually think it would go really good with our sort of 60s kind of sound. So I messaged him, and he really dug the songs, and we knew by the first like practice jamming together that he was the guy, like he was the bass player. Like he picked up the songs like that, and finally we had our pants.
It's good. Pants are good. Well, I mean, for you, because the music, and you mentioned like definitely it's got the 60s pop sound, like 60s folk, especially like the Southern California, the Topanga Canyon, like sun-soaked kind of vibe to it. But how have the songs changed now that you've got a full band? Because it was very different when you were first writing them and recording them just as you. So can you talk a little bit about how the music is transformed on stage?
Yeah, when I first recorded it, I didn't know who could possibly be in my band. So I put the focus of the first album, which is called Transmountaineer, I put the focus of that album on more of the singer-songwriter thing with some drums and bass and stuff, but it was more background. I didn't have it really hot in the mix. So the songs were slower, and I didn't really anticipate what it would be like performing it live in like a coffee shop or a bar or something. I figured I'd have the CD, it would sound great, and if I wanted to play it back to the grind or some local coffee shop or something, I could easily pull it off, singer-songwriter, with the way I wrote the songs. But as soon as I introduced the band, it automatically, the tempo increases. We're like 10, 15 beats per minute faster than it was on the recording. And it just becomes a little bit more rockin'. And at first, I like kind of argued and stuff with Mikey, our drummer, and the rest of the band. And then we started thinking about it, and we're like, you know what, why not? Like, I want everybody to have fun. I want the band to have fun. I want them to feel like, as much as they are supporting the music, they're expressing their individual creativity. So I just kind of let them have free reign there. Same thing with our bass player. And it's gotten more lively. And at the same time, it was a good adaptation because the way modern music has evolved, like, I don't think most people can't really listen to a song without a beat or a bass line or something. And, you know, few times do we actually get the opportunity to sit down and perform in a coffee shop where people aren't drunk and people are sober and they're really there, like, reflecting on the lyrics and stuff. Most of the time it's a bar type setting, or it's some kind of party or something where everyone's, you know, having some fun and they just want to dance and kind of unwind and be entertained more than get cerebral. So the band really transformed the sound that way. But to me, like, it's just a vessel. Like the rhythm and the bass are just a vessel to kind of carry those lyrics, and then hopefully people really dig it and they grab the CD and they listen to it in their car and they're like, oh wow, these lyrics are really great too. I didn't notice that the first time around.
Well, you know, talking about lyrics, you already mentioned you're a big film fan, and also, I mean, we talked about this before. Like the notes of like transcendentalism, like it took me back to thinking about learning that in English class. Can you talk a little bit about those kinds of influences on you as a songwriter?
Oh, totally. The whole transcendentalism thing, like, I guess it kind of goes back to my character, like, as a human being. Like, as far back as I can remember, like, I've always questioned and challenged everything, always questioned the establishment, challenged the establishment. For me, it was like someone would tell me to do something, and before the idea of obedience kicked in, the first thing I would say is why. Like, it wasn't enough to just, I'm not going to do it just because you told me to. I want to know why, what's the purpose. So I'm always walking around questioning my own values, reshaping my own ideas, and of course, questioning the establishment too. So there's a lot of that in the lyrics, but it's really hard to just outright say that in a song. I like it to be a little more subtle, so I pick sort of this backdrop of like the Western frontier to kind of say these transcendentalist philosophies. And I mean, it was the 1800s and those ideas were really sparking anyways, and Thoreau and so and Ralph Waldo Emerson, and this it just kind of fits, I guess, you know.
And the films as well, like, I mean, not going back to the 1800s and the Westerns, Western film as a genre also inspired your music.
Western films, big time. Like, and I like everything. Like, I love the 30s John Ford black and white westerns and the, you know, tough John Wayne on the screen, and I love those 60s sort of anti-Western kind of things with the Sam Peckinpah, and you have these characters that are they're like the hero, but they're not perfect. They're really flawed, and so you kind of have you rooting for the bad guy. And then there have actually been a lot of really great Western films in the last few years, like the remake of True Grit and stuff. So these films have really inspired me. And I guess there's a lot of, since I'm always questioning values and morality and things like that in my mind, there's a lot of that in Western films. So like, I guess I really relate to that. And then I don't know what it is about all the beauty of the West and that like focus on nature and things like that. And Native American lore has always attracted me. So it just fits, again, it fits lyrically, it fits the whole like morality thing, and being able to sing about nature and stuff really fits the folk music genre too. So, but the films, like we have a new EP out. It's called Native Ground, and it's kind of like the precursor to a full-length album we're working on together as a band. This time the full band and not just me. But the EP Native Ground has a song on it called 1850 Overture, which I'm probably going to be performing in a few minutes. And this particular song was inspired by a Swedish film called The Settlers. And it just kind of tells about the first settlers in America and all of the adversity that they faced, and all these just one terrible thing after another, to the point where it makes you wonder, like, what was even the point of coming out here in the first place? Like, maybe they would have just been better off staying back there. But no, this is a part of our history and stuff, and it's something we have to learn from so we don't make those kind of future mistakes and stuff. But the album itself is called Native Ground. And Native Ground, I have sort of a different insight into Native American history, because I seem to remember growing up sort of thinking like the Native Americans were the bad guys for some reason. When you read these stories, and the stories we were told in like 4th grade and stuff, oh yeah, they were slaughtering innocent white people and doing these terrible atrocities. And the more I research it and the more of these like Western films and stuff that I watch, the more I realize that, they were here first, and this was their land, and people were trying to push them out of their way of living and force them to adapt a whole new culture. And I don't think people talk about it enough. I think it's something that's just kind of forgotten. And so, like, I kind of feel like this need to write about that. Like, it should never be forgotten. Like, it should be remembered every day, how terrible that was, so that it never happens again, kind of thing.
So you mentioned the new EP, Native Ground, is out. What else is on the horizon for the rest of 2013? Yeah.
Sorry. For the rest of 2013, we plan on releasing a full-length album entitled Rollin' Train. And Rollin' Train is one of the tracks off of the Native Ground EP. But there's going to be a theme of this Rollin' Train throughout the album, and in the lyrics and stuff. And the Rollin' Train sort of symbolizes the way, time is always moving and ideas are evolving, and it's kind of this struggle between keeping up with the times and these new ideas, and your own stubborn pride and not wanting to grow and evolve as a human being, basically. But that's sort of the theme of the new album. We really, really, really want to tour. That's kind of our whole reason for doing all of this. Every one of us has this desire to travel and meet new people, and that's kind of like our main inspiration in music. It's not just performing and expressing ourselves, but it's those connections and those bonds that you make with other human beings, like yourself, and getting to sit down and talk like this about the music or about other people in their lives, and learning new things about yourself, and learning new ideas that you hadn't considered before. And so, like, I hunger and thirst for that experience and stuff. And I know that there's more out there, and I need to go explore it. Like, I just got this rambling itch, and I think most of my band does too. for that matter. And you get so caught up with the full-time job or whatever else that it's like, oh, I need an escape. Like I need something more, you know. So I want to go to Europe. That's my main goal. And somehow in the next year, as we continue to play so many shows and release the new album and all that stuff, I'm just hoping that we connect with the right group of individuals who understand where we're going with the music and want to get it to the people and help us distribute it and hopefully find some kind of label to pick us up and help us achieve our dream of touring and all that stuff. So I haven't met the right people yet. Corona, despite how many people live in Corona, there's not much of a music scene out there at all. So it's hard. We're branching out and we're playing in all these other cities but our hometown, and really hoping to make those connections somewhere along the line.
Well, and where can people find you online and hear your music?
Well, we have a website. It's called bbcab.org. Of course, we're on Facebook, Reverb Nation, Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, just about every social networking site you can imagine. But links to all of those pages are going to be on our main site, bbcab.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming down, and can't wait to hear the performances in a couple minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.